Hey, it's Athena at Gluten Freeology, where I make gluten-free versions of your favorite comfort foods and some healthy stuff too. If you love puff pastry desserts, you're going to want to try this recipe for Plum Galette. Sometimes finding puff pastries in the stores can be really difficult, so I decided to make my own. The biggest thing is that it can be a bit time consuming because you've got to get the butter blended into the flour, and then you want the right amount of ice water to add to the flour so that it clumps together and forms a clay-like consistency. If it gets a little bit too sticky, then you need to come in and add more flour. But once it starts to form like a Play-Doh texture, you are doing the right thing. And once it starts to look more so like this, all you have to do is wrap it in plastic and refrigerate it for 1 hour. I like to clean my fruit with a mix of vinegar and baking soda. So after you clean them, give them another good rinse and then thinly slice them so that it's easier to layer the fruit on top of each other. Sometimes working with gluten-free flour can be frustrating because, of course, we all know it does not have gluten in it, so it's not going to respond like your typical wheat all-purpose flour. The most important thing is to make sure that you are rolling out the dough on wax paper or, like me, a piece of plastic, and dusting it with more of that 1-for-1 gluten-free flour just to make sure it's not sticking to your hands and it's not sticking to a rolling pin. So instead of rolling out one big piece, I decided to break it up into little pieces because depending on the size of your baking sheet, you might not need all of the dough. Just make sure that everything is about the same thickness, and once you're ready, and once you've got the size that you think is big enough, you can carefully add it to a greased baking dish. So don't worry if there are any tears when you're removing the plastic. You should be able to piece the dough back together with your fingers and little splashes of water. Now the fun part, just coming up with a pattern or a design for your fruit. My edges are very messy, but in hindsight, you should take a knife to cut off the excess. And if you have any edges that break or tear, you should be able to smooth them out again with some more of that ice cold water and your fingers in the back of a spoon. There is absolutely nothing better than homemade dessert. If you have a sweet tooth like me, you've got to try this recipe. This was absolutely delicious.